What is up, guys? So, another video in the making about Leon Edwards. Is he overrated? And I'm going to be non-biased, but we're going to have to look at the timeline on how he got the belt until now. That, he was pushed back again and again and again, waiting for a title fight. He won quite a few before he was given another shot at Usman. And you know what? To be fair, when Usman already beat you the first time, it's really hard for the UFC to favor you for that. So to get that rematch and let alone win it, we have to look at that second fight too. With that second fight, it looked like Usman had his number yet again, but a last-minute KO in the fifth changed the trajectory. So when I looked at that fight, I felt like Leon Edwards had gotten lucky. The result of the third fight between Usman and Edwards was going to be in the air, but Edwards comes and completely blows it out of the water. Who would have guessed? Honestly, I thought Usman was going to take that back. He was probably going to put the beating on a little harder, but it didn't end up working out that way. You had Leon Edwards coming forward and dominating Usman in a lot of realms too. In fact, honestly, in the wrestling realm, he really did that. Although a lot of people are making the arguments, well, that's when Usman was breaking down because afterwards he fought Hamzat and lost there. You're fighting Hamzat, and Hamzat obviously is a special talent. I think if Usman were to come back against someone who, is probably mid-tier in the welterweight, I could see Usman winning that fight, getting his hand raised and saying, look, my body's not what it was anymore. Obviously, he's past his prime, but I don't think he's totally crashed out just yet. So Usman could definitely get a win. And honestly, speaking of which, side note for Usman, if Usman were to get a fight, get a win, raise his hand and say, I'm done, my body can't do this anymore, I have to walk down the steps backwards, I have to walk on grass, I got a family, I would respect that. That would be the perfect ending for someone like Kamaru Usman's career, because Kamaru Usman deserves that respect. He deserves that ending. He was a dominant welterweight champion and definitely in the conversation for best welterweights of all time. But let's move forward with, after that, the Leon Edwards thing. Now, obviously, Colby Covington comes up, and Covington didn't really deserve a title shot. When you know the alleged background negotiations that happened for him to get that title shot, I wasn't really surprised when Leon Edwards won that fight against Covington. Covington, obviously went way too far in the presser, so I think Edwards was very proven to prove point, and that's where we kind of saw the end of prime Colby Covington. To me, that was that. So if you look at it like that, that title defense, I felt like that's where Covington's wheels had actually come off. Because if you look at Covington's record, who did he have before that? Masvidal. Masvidal was basically a tailored matchup for Covington to win straight up, just wrestle him all the time. And even then, it looked like in the fourth round, he got clipped by Masvidal pretty bad. So his title defenses, I guess you could praise him for the Usman third fight, and then for the Covington, you could easily brush that one off your shoulder. But then here comes the Bilal rematch, and now Bilal is the champion. Bilal stepped it up. He worked with Habib. He worked with Islam. He was part of that whole camp, right? He was part of that Muslim camp of fighters, and they fixed him up. They taught him to stay on top game, be more aggressive with the takedowns, help his striking out a ton. And, I think it's that Bilal might actually be that guy. Now, if you were to talk about Jack Della Mena versus Bilal Muhammad, where do I think that goes? I'm never counting Bilal out again. I know that there's a kind of a rhyme and reason to that. Once I never count the fighter out, that's when they take a loss. But I feel like Bilal, it's winnable for him. Jack Della Mena might be a toughest challenge yet. I think a lot of people haven't really seen just how good he is. Jack Della Mena is definitely a dark horse in the welterweight division. But, I'm going off on another tangent. But after that fight, we had the Sean Brady fight for Edwards, and here he is again. And he got absolutely steamrolled. So upon the analysis of Edwards after the Sean Brady fight, that was also like Brady was the Covington to Edwards Masvidal. All that Brady really had to do was take that fight to the ground and submit Leon Edwards. But even then, Brady did really work on his striking. So when it comes to Brady versus Bilal Muhammad 2 or whoever he's fighting for the title, I hope it's Bilal who he faces for the title again, because then we get to see how much Sean Brady really did improve after losing to Bilal the first time. I don't know. I can't really say that Edwards is overrated. I know I just gave a lot of reasons to say why his title reign probably wasn't as great as it seemed, as short as it was, but you do got to give credit due where credit's due. I think that it's a mixed bag. Do I think it was the greatest welterweight reign of all time? Absolutely not. I think it's very far from it. And obviously, his behavior over the past couple fights has put a very sour taste in a lot of fans' mouth, rightfully so. I firmly believe that you should be able to carry yourself in a way that you do in victory as you do in defeat. That is a prime foregone conclusion. But I think as far as welterweights go, I don't think he is overall overrated. I think he definitely has some staples left in the division to face down. I think he could definitely face off against some top-tier competition. Maybe Ian Gary if he wants to roll the dice, and I do think that is a dice roll, because although Edwards can beat Ian Gary showed with that Shavkat fight that he is way better than people want to admit. A lot of people on the internet love to hate on Ian Gary for his personal life, but let's look at this at a fighter standpoint on how those stylistic matchups match up. If Ian Gary is able to get it to the ground, he's been working on his jiu-jitsu also, so I think if he gets it to the ground with Leon Edwards, he could finish Edwards too. So we'll see. I think that obviously the division is absolutely catching up with him, and this is just another part of the sport that a lot of people like to overlook what Edwards has done. Now, yeah, as a fighter, I'm focusing specifically on the fighter, despite, like I just said, his behavior over the past couple fights has put a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths, but stylistically, there's a lot of ground gamers. There's a lot of true, at their heart, mixed martial artists who have really heavy groundwork that are coming up the ladder. So I don't think he's overrated. Division catches up with him, and welterweight is a lot tougher than a lot of people like to admit. I think the problem with welterweight is it just doesn't have a whole lot of talkers. It doesn't have a lot of publicity behind it. As far as ticket sales go, you could tell that it is at an all-time low. It's nowhere near the GSP era where all the top guys like GSP, John Fitch, Nick Diaz were at the top of the welterweight division. Now, it's a different time. Now you could say that middleweight or maybe even some parts of heavyweight are a little more marketable. Now, obviously, lightweight is definitely one of the most marketable ones, featherweight, but welterweight is really lagging behind. So I don't think it's a skill thing. It's just that there's not a whole lot of talkers that are going along with selling the skill. But moving along with Leon Edwards, obviously he's getting a little outmatched, not overrated, but what should be next for Leon Edwards? And I want to conclude with this. I think with Masvidal potentially wanting to come back, there's rumors of that. Where's he going? I don't really know. But Masvidal wanting to come back that would be a good fight for him, Leon Edwards, because I think Edwards is reaching that part in his age where he is going to start to slow down. I don't think he's too far behind catching the Usman syndrome right now. Same with Masvidal. Masvidal is not as young as he used to be. So that would be a good fan service one, some unfinished business, as Masvidal were to say it, to go with. And honestly, who do I think wins that fight? I don't know, but I think right now, as their career paths are lining up, a potential return, if it even happens, mixed with Edwards wanting to pick a fight that still gets his hand raised, potentially, I think Edwards would definitely win that fight against Jorge Masvidal. But, however, as I said, that's going to be in the future. But yes, I do want to make it very clear, I don't think Edwards is overrated at all. I think he has actually accomplished more than we expected him to in the welterweight division. But once you reach the top, you do get a little arrogant. And to be fair to Leon Edwards, if you came back in the second fight where you were being beat again against a dominant champion, you got a last-minute KO, and then the third fight where your fate was up in the air, and then, well, you blow it out of the water more than you even thought, would your head not be a little in the clouds? Would your confidence not be at an all-time high? Because we got to give Leon Edwards a little bit of benefit of the doubt because we are all human. And us humans do have human nature. I think Edwards was just riding the high of his career. And as fast as it happened, it was over. But that's what I got to say. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out and cheers.